Mitrovica, M1, televizioni i parë shqip në rajonin e Mitrovicës.
What ultimately happened in Kosovo was something that was quite arguably simply a crime that was waiting to happen, but that was delayed. The reason for its delay being that the international community was not prepared to tolerate and made it clear in warnings to this accused that it was not prepared to tolerate an extension of the fighting to that area.
Po, dignitetin shqiptar kishte thyrja dignitetit dhe poshtnimi i popullatës shqiptare në Kosovë ka filluar prej vitit 1987. Ti përmendi vetëm përcip tazi, ndryshimet kushtetuese, izolimi i 300 intelektualve, heqja ose pamundësia për hyrjen e objektet shkollore, represioni sistematik dhe hyrja e policisë në çdo shtëpi, mos realizimi i marrëveshjes së arsimit, degenerimi i procesit politik në Kosovë, ikja e 500.000 shqiptarëve jashtë Kosovës deri në vitin 1997 për shkak të pamundësisë të punësimit.
One of the most egregious violations occurred in the Drenica Valley in February and March 98. The most notorious incident was the attack on the Yashari compound in the village of Prekaz, in which more than 50 people lost their lives. The entire Yashari family, save for the 11-year-old girl named Besart.
Pas masakrës së Prekazit dhe Likoshanit, është ngrit një revolt në Kosovë ku secili ka dashur shpëtimin ta kërkojë në mal. Dhe ju kanë bashkangjit grupit që ka qenë armatosur edhe ka qenë grupi me emrin NUÇK.
Gjendja përgjithshme në muajin shtator shtatore ishte veprimet ishin luftimet intensive në territoret kontrolluar të cilët ishin të kontrolluar nga UÇK-ja, të cilët nga atë kohë forcat serbeve kishin marrë ofanzivë të madhe në territoret, si në Gjykimi, ashtu në Drenicë edhe në zonat tjera, ku luftimet ishin të zhvilluar në të territoret mjaft të ashpra.
Well, it was very extensive. I think I counted that day some 16 villages on fire. All these villages were aflame, subject to bombardment, and had been put to the flame. And they said that they had been moved out of the other villages, that they'd been given a deadline to go, that if they were told if they did not go they would be subject to bombardment. They described the routine to be that the bombardment, the threats came first, then the bombardment. After the bombardment, the Serb forces move in and first looted the houses, after which parties of soldiers, as they described them, came in and put the houses to fire.
We used, I should say, straightforward language and told Mr. Milosevic that within 48 hours NATO could bomb the former Yugoslav Republic unless we saw a tangible and verifiable reduction of the deployment of additional forces to Kosovo and an end of hostilities.
We had achieved agreement, and then it remained to type up the agreement and get it signed. And President Milosevic was musing philosophically about this. And he turned to me and he said, General Clark, he said, we know how to handle these murderers, these rapists, these criminals. He said, we've done this before. I said, well, when? He said, in Drenica in 1946. And I said, what did you do? He said, we killed them. He said, we killed them all.
In most cases, the incidents were not triggered by the Yugoslav side. They were triggered by the Albanian side or the Kosovar side, who tried to take advantage of the vacuum left by the Serb side, who had withdrawn in accordance with the agreement. And the Serb side reacted to that, I think in a way which the reaction as such was understandable to us. What was not understandable to us was from time to time the way in which they reacted. So we were suddenly again in a spiral of force and counter-force which was mutually reinforcing and led to escalation.
From what I could see, they had been shot at close range, mostly in the head, the back or the front, and the men were they were all men, first of all, and they did not look like men of what I would consider fighting age. Looked like several elderly people, mostly villagers, some wearing the typical Albanian caps there.
Well, our message was, as the negotiators, to impress upon President Milosevic that the time is running out, that we need now a positive re-engagement on their side. It was very clear that the alternative to the Rambouillet Accords was a military intervention on the part of the international community. For me, it was actually quite depressing, because I immediately realized that there was no real interest in identifying a way out of this situation. My impression in the course of these talks was that he had already made up his mind, basically, and was not really listening.
Ako dođe do bombardovanja od strane NATO pakta, ako dođe do američke agresije, mi Srbi ćemo prilično stradati, ali Albanaca na Kosovu neće biti.
During this conflict, thousands of Kosovo Albanian civilians and non-combatants were killed by force of the Fry in Serbia. These are the killing sites as reflected in the indictment. The witnesses whose evidence we propose to adduce in respect to these sites and these murders are the fortunate ones. They escaped with their lives. Many of their relatives, sometimes their entire families, their neighbors, did not survive the expulsion campaign to tell the tale.
Dhe krejt kemi hy mrena dhe na kanë thonë ulluni, dhe si jemi ull na kanë fillu ato me gjujt, sa kanë mut pa ndërprej kanë gjujt, nuk e di sa vetëm pa ndërprej me automatik kanë gjujt. Masanet e lanë gjujtjen, mas kohë prap hyshin edhe ata kanë e poshin, breshin që ashtë gjallë, prap gjushin me dishka, edhe si gjushin ai me njëherë vdeshin ose fëmijët ose gratë, burrat kanë e gjushin me atë. Lloj granata, nuk e di unë shka u konë. Edhe altini jem ka qenë i gjallë, i thashoj mami thash, banu si kur je i vdekun. Ai djali nuk ka bozo hiq, po e vrejtën kur e ngrehen aty. Edhe atëherë e gjujtën, edhe vetëm njëherë e kom një që ka glith ofë, që ka bo.
Që në kanë jekë filivalli, grupën teme në kanë fillue, në onën e lindjes, edhe për pjetë i shku gjithë që ashtu kush ka mujtë mes ma partë ka 2-2. Kërë në vytë nga të mali, në kanë shah serbisht, në kanë thonë këthenu për mas, se ata e në konë gjithë në onën e djatë, tonën të shkue. Edhe pa kërja e fjallë mirë, kanë shti në arme, edhe i ka marë, jenë vrajnë, unë e i mrahë. Kom neja 30 minuta që aty ratë, dikur im shku zhag, im hinë malë.
Pasi jam largu 50 metra prej shtëpie, kam një qëtone e na kanë ndjek shtëpinë me nëran e kom një zarën e bjërit e mblërimet zotë mramin, zoni më mramin shka është. E unë tentova mu këthy apet e një kampanjol ka qëndru para shpisime dhe aj polici mu drejtu mu tha mos shko te mos u kthe mami shko me këta shkajkisa se edhe ti vrahesh atë.
Did you ever see your husband, your son, and your nephew alive again after that day?
E herë si fillim kemi menu se janë që shdukon edhe gjithë kemë shpesu se janë gjallë, por masë nejnaj e kemë kuptu se janë ndekon, dhe sa i kemë marrë për format e tyne.
They walked us in a single file line towards the house. They started telling us, forcing us inside. We went inside, and then they sat us around. And Flaka got up, tried to make tea. The guy pushed her and started firing, and her mother ran out screaming and crying and started shooting her. Then after that, there was Luzim's wife and daughter, and then my mom, and just started shooting everybody. Just started firing everywhere.
Aty në të pronët të Beles, larg fshatit, kanë pushkatuar fëmi, gra, pleq, 60 dhe 2 të paralizum, i cili pa të leveshëm i ka djek në shtëpin e Mamet Zhoniqit me Bëllacërk.
Qëtu jenë vratë 2 djemë të Hages, kretë gjithsejt jenë vratë në pronën e Beles 22. Kushëri dhe vlazën djemë të Hages dhe kushëri. Gjalli vogël Agoni. Ende si kish 14. Shëndeti jam shtu. 17 vjeç.
Një policë është kanë me pushko me të lezë, me senek, a i për njëherë, si ka artë, më njëherë në ka gra rafal. Po ju kanë bashkan gjitë edhe qërë, dikush në pëngjerë, dikush në derë, rafal pa ndërpre. Teri jenë hargjua të rafala neve. Të vëni ka hi mrana me alti, kush e qëjke kokën, im shëjke me alti. Masa nej nuk e kom pavi që kom një kur ka kërsit, në kam lu flaka. Edhe murët o dishin edhe kufamat përgjësikajt. Kur kom njësë më djeg, atëherë jem ngre edhe kom dal. Ka dale. 2 djelt me vete, vlavin me djal. Ata kalmet aty. Ata i kanë djegë.
Edhe vazhdum hymë në afër shtëpisë, në koridorin shtëpisë, duhet në skoke, edhe gjeli derën e dhomës, në urdhnu që të hymë në dhomën ku dhe u bo ekzekutimi. Kujtohet kur kom pa flakët e pushme të lezit, kur dulen për gryket, ndëgjëshin klithmat, se pak më vjen vështirë t'i thëmë, e aty në bura se ishin të vrarë, se hala ishin jetë nga të hamzat të tyre, edhe dëgjova që të shpinin me nga një plumë, një nga një. Dhe unë e fillova që frimarin time të zvogloj gjatë asaj kohë, se me sa diktojnë se unë i kam bjetu asaj. Shumë shpejt kom fillu mu djeg, dhe për një moment mu ka nalë dhe gjithë shka nuk kom pa, asë gjë. Kom menu që jam dikun në tokë i felli i shtim. Së di zotim ka një mu që shëm dalë, e di si kom një hape, kom në rrudha, jem të rjekët, jem dalë në derë. Kjo thëmë sinqerisht, nuk jem dalë për t'i mbjetu asaj, po për të vritëm me së të djegëm i gjallë.
Mother was shot. Me and my sister started screaming and shouting. I was at the beginning of the group, so they started shooting, so I was kind of pushed, and we all just grouped together on the corner of the house.
When he started shooting, I just leaned on the wall and just slid it down. And then it hit me on my right leg, the bullets, and after a while the shooting stops, and there was a sound from someone that the kind of sound where you're struggling to breathe, and then the shooting started again, and then when the shooting started again, it hit me in my arm and in my back. And I saw my brother, Shpatim, who was 9 years old. He was lying face down on my feet, and he was shot on his head. Half of his head was missing.
This fourth video, M1.
And how many shots did you suffer in total that day?
I suffered 5 or 6.
There was 2 in my leg, and there was 1 in my back, and sorry, in the whole of my arm, my left arm, and my hand, so the whole of my arm.
The evidence will show a typical pattern occurred in which the Serb forces would nearly encircle a town or village, leaving one avenue of escape. The VJ would commence shelling with artillery and heavy weapons. Then the MOOP units, including special units and volunteers, would enter the town, force the people out, sometimes killing or raping as they did so, and often looting and then burning the abandoned houses. And so the massive convoys seen in the international media quickly came into existence from the end of March 1999.
When I confronted Mr. Milosevic with that, he said that they were just picnicking, so I shouldn't be concerned. They were just on a trip, having picnic. I think I said that it was strange to have picnic with all your belongings on a tractor trailer. I said that I had seen some of this myself, and I had credible reports from international observers that this was happening. And I said that in a response to his statement that I was watching too much CNN, because he said that I was fooled by CNN.
Fillimisht kanë fillu me djegjen e shtëpive. Në pritje të në hyrjen e fshatit kanë dalë disa burra, rreth 60, dhe ata më njëherë kanë fillu më ra nga policia dhe ushtria serbe. Kanë fillu plaskitja, ka fillu dëbimi edhe vrasjet. Edhe në këtë mënyrë domethënë popullata është detyru me dhonë të largohet nga fshati. Aty ishin të mbledhur rreth 80.000 banor të fshatrave të ndryshme të komunave të tjera përreth, si Raoveci, Drenasi, Shtimja, Lipjani, Suareka dhe Malisheva. Po këto kolona i drejtonte policia, ushtria dhe paramilitar.
Ishte data 28 mars, vitit 1999, kur filluan të djegojnë shtëpit në fshatin Sfaraqak i Vepër. Gjithë banorët e fshatit filluan të largohen prej fshatit, kështu që edhe na ju bashkangjitëm asaj turmës të njerëzve. Ishte një kolon shumë e gjatë. Nuk pand thot ndoshta ndonjë shifër e saktë. Ka menduar se ka qenë një kolon prej 5.000 veta. 50.000 veta.
Jo s'dishte si të uzohen njerëzit, ka t'ja mbanin mirë, po ja vlente të provoj, me qenë se mendonim se të gjithë do të na vresnin, atëherë ja vlente të provoj të iken nga fshati. Dhe kështu, turma filloi aty rreth shtëpisë sime, një lugine është përpas shtëpisë Livadët dhe lugina, dhe të gjithë ashtu me gra, pleq, fëmijë, si ishin, filluan të ikin, ju thash edhe fëmijëve të mi t'i bashkohen turmës me gruan.
E vesha uniformën prej imami dhe shkoja në drejtimin ka rrugës kryesore dhe pas një 500-600 metrave hasa në një ushtar ju prezentova dhe e pyeta pse është këtu krisma në fshatin tim. Ai më përgjigj kështu: kemi marrë informacione se është lajmëru UÇK-ja në fshat. Duhet të zbrazet fshati, ne përmi luftu ata, po përmi... Unë i garantova se nuk ka pas UÇK, edhe nuk ka, por sidoqoftë ai më dha urdhër që me nxjerr popullatën për shtëpive. Dhe të nesërmen, në ora 7:30, i tërë popullata ka qenë rrugë, me traktor, me kultivator, ka pas kamion, vetura.
Në atë ditë, me 1 prill, nëse nuk jam gabim, filloi një valë shumë e madhe e njerëzve, një lumë i pandërprer i njerëzve, i eskortuar nga policia serbe, e cila shkonte drejt fush Kosovës. Në fush Kosovë, pastaj do të detyroheshin të hypnin në tren deri në kufirin me Maqedoninë, do të ndaleshin në Hante e Lezit, dhe prej Hanit e Lezit e tutje do të ecnin në për hekur udhë deri në kufirin e Maqedonisë, ku do të shndroshin refugjat në momentin kur do autoritetet maqedonëse do t'i pranonin si të tillë.
Kur kemi arrit në stacionin e trenit, më zhduk që e gjithë Prishtina ishte aty. Fëmijë, gra, pleq, të trishtum, të lodhun, të raskapitun. Mbasi që kemi mbri në han të Elezit, afër fabrikës së qimentos, treni ka ndaluar aty. Dhe do të thotë kemi qenë të rrethekuar nga të dy ante e trenit, nga forcat do të thotë cila ishte në tren. Për një herë është dhënë urdhër që të zbresim nga treni, gjithë, dhe kanë fillu do të thotë kërkimi i lejeve të njoftimit.
Kur kem punë qendër, çdo pjesë e trotuarit qendrës, ka posta, ka hotel Metohia, ka hotel Korza, të gjithë ka qenë e mbushur në plot e përplot me popullat, dëbume e tubume në qendër. Ndërsa në mes kanë qenë kamiona të mbulum, kamiona frigorifer, autobus, shlepera në mesin në sheshin e Pejes, ku u fuqin populata edhe i dëbëshin në drejtim të Shqipërisë.
Ne fillimisht na ishte bombarduar dhe na ishte djegur shtëpia. Po ashtu ishim detyruar të dilnim më dhunë nga Kosova, ishim ngarkuar në trena edhe në trena mallrash dhe kjo është më së e ditur, dihet botërisht sot se ky ndoshta ishte egzodi i fundit në fund shekullin i një populli të tërë, ku zhbëhej një njësi e tërë gjeografike nga egzodi i njerëzve.
January 1998, for instance, there was already a lot of information coming out of Kosovo that things weren't going well, that the police were very rough, that there were incidents here and there. Now, I had two problems. The first problem is that all our resources internally were committed. My other big problem was that we only had jurisdiction in Kosovo if there was an armed conflict. To have an armed conflict, you need organized combatants, armies or organizations that have a command structure. We knew at that point very little about the KLA. And Milosevic, of course, was always calling them a bunch of terrorists. So we started collecting information on the KLA. And then Ratchak, January 99, blew up. By then, we were ready. We knew we had an armed conflict. We had the basis for that. So I felt very sure when I asserted my right to enter. I decided to go. I was very transparent. First of all, I told the Secretary General, Kofi Annan, that I was going to go because I knew this was going to be somewhat difficult. I also told Belgrade, I sent someone to the Foreign Ministry in Belgrade, and I told them that I would actually, visa or no visa, present myself at the border the next day. So it didn't take them by surprise. In fact, they were very well prepared to deny me entry. I entered the custom post. I asked to speak to the person who was in charge. I spoke to an officer who identified himself only by a badge number, and he told me that he had authority. He knew who I was. I repeated to him that I was the prosecutor of the War Crimes Tribunal, that I had a mandate under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, that I was entitled to enter the territory, all the territory of the former Yugoslavia, to conduct investigations, and that he should let me in. He told me that I needed a visa and I could apply at the embassy in Skopje. And I came back to The Hague almost ready to write a letter of resignation. I felt, I can't do this, obviously. There's nothing else I could have tried, and it didn't work. And yet, when I arrived in my office in The Hague, the staff were lined up applauding. This was viewed from the outside as a great success moment of the tribunal, a moment of force and of visibility. And then I realized that image and the power of the message, this confrontation on the border, was immensely important to explain to the world the work of the tribunals. Let me just say at the outset a couple of, I think, quite critically important points. The first one is that we will be investigating the massacre at Ratchak. We will continue to do so with or without access to the territory. I also want to stress, again, very unequivocally, that this question of access to the territory and to the evidence that will be available on the territory is a critical issue. We are entitled to it as a matter of law. It's my firm position. Many government sources and NATO officials have indicated in the last few weeks that they have evidence of the commission of war crimes in Kosovo and that they are willing to make that information available to the tribunal. It is my view that an unprecedented input from states is now required in this regard if the tribunal is to be able to advance significantly beyond the evidence of the refugees and expose the role of senior military and police commanders as well as political leaders. I never received instructions from NATO. I never sought instructions from them. I certainly never asked them, what do you think about the Milosevic indictment now or tomorrow or in 3 weeks? Would it be good or bad? Frankly, I think they had no idea. I think they were very ambivalent as to whether this would precipitate a settlement of the conflict or precipitate an endless war. My guess is that if I had asked, they would have told me to do nothing, mostly because I believe that they don't like the uncertainty of a process they can't control. The question of the possible Milosevic being put out of reach of the tribunal was a huge concern for me. This bombing campaign had been going on for weeks. And I assumed that part of the exit strategy might have involved either an amnesty, which frankly I think would not have been binding on the tribunal, only an amnesty issued by the Security Council could have had legal effect. So I wasn't worried about a legally binding end to that process, but I was worried about a deal that would make him more out of reach and make it more difficult in reality to and Vlajko Stojilkovic, Minister of Internal Affairs of the Republic of Serbia. Well, the reaction I got was, as is usually the case, the first reaction was from the press, and the press was overwhelmingly positive, and therefore the political response was also very positive. I mean, to me, that's quite inevitable. I think if the reaction coming out of the media had been negative and so on, I'm sure that I would have heard in no uncertain terms what a foolish thing I'd done and how dare I go alone. And every step we take, every grave that we uncover, every indictment we bring, I think, is an irreversible step forward. I don't know when this is going to happen, that there will be a telling of today's story in the courtrooms of The Hague, but there's no doubt in my mind that there will be.
This fourth video, M1.
Does the first entry read, "No corpse, no crime"?
Da, to tačno tako piše.
It's your handwriting. What was the setting for this entry? You were sitting there with one of the presidents, were you?
Da li jesam ili nisam, zaista ne mogu iz ovoga da procenim. Ovdje zaista piše predsjednik i verovatno da je reč o nekom sastanku kod predsjednika.
Pa došao je jedan uniformisan čovjek, rekao da je starešin i rekao me da idemo da obavimo neki delikatan posao. Noć već bio kad smo stigli. Zadah se jako osjetio. Pretpostavio sam odmah da je nešto oko leševa. Naslutio sam.
Drejt kemi shku për drejtim cuare gazetarëve veç kur jemi kthyer te gjyqja e ushtrisë aty në Strelishte. Atëherë kur kemi shku aty ne janë kon me kamiona, me bagjera, janë kon krejt gati, janë kon u kon drejtori, u kon joni, kemi pas rrethoja. Aty janë kon policia, janë kon me kamion tjetër.
Dosta tih leševa sam ja oštetio. Nije to bilo nakaženo. Ne znam kako, nego od mašine jednostavno ne vidi se u zemlji gde se zakopa. Deci se otkine se ruka, noga. Tako.
Primetio sam da je desna polovina vrata provaljena. Da kroz taj procep vire dve ljudske noge i jedna ruka. Poslali smo jedan dopis sekretarijatu unutrašnjih poslova. Jedan pismeni izveštaj šta smo našli u Dunavu i šta je u kamionu.
Tokom 6. aprila preduvjet su mere bile da se taj predmet dovuče do obale i izvuče na obalu. U tom smislu korišćena je neka mašina, dizalica sa hidroelektrane Đerdap, tako da su celo prepodne otprilike pokušavali da taj predmet izvuku iz Dunava.
Ja sam sa jednim kolegom bio u hladnjači. Izvlačili smo leševe iz hladnjače. Jedan kolega je bio odmah pored hladnjače, iza nas, koji je prihvatao te leševe i umotavao. Drugi su nosili, neko je osvetljavao teren, neki su dočekivali teret na kamionu. Tako bila je ta organizacija posla. Leševi su bili oba dva pola. Starosne strukture, ja znam sigurno da je bilo dvoje dece. Dečak tu 5-6 godina. Jedna devojčica tako 8-9 godina. A ostali leševi su bili starosti tako otprilike od 20-ak pa do 70 godina, možda i više.
Prvi put sam dobio naređenje od mog neposrednog starešine Dragića Nenadića i rekao mi je da se snađem preko svojih prijatelja da pronađem neki kamion, da obavim jedan zadatak koji je vrlo važan i u interesu je za državu.
From where did you pick up bodies and where did you deliver them to?
Iz hladnjače koja je isplivala iz Dunava, znači pretovareni leševi iz te hladnjače u kamion koji sam ja uzeo i odvezu u Batenicu.
Following the work that was done that night, did you do anything with regards to payment for the workers who had carried out those actions?
Posle izvesnog vremena ja sam tražio sredstva iz ministarstva da im damo neku naknadu za taj rad i ta sredstva smo dobili, to je 10.000 dinara i to je podeljeno tim radnicima koji su
Ja sam izvestio gospodina Đorđevića i tražio sam dalja uputstva šta dalje da se čini, nakon čega je gospodin Đorđević rekao da je potrebno preduzeti mere da se leševi iz jezera izvade, da se angažuje potreban broj ljudi i građana u tu svrhu i da se leševi sahrane na kopnom u zajedničku grobnicu u blizini brane Perućac.
The fourth and final trip that you made, where did you collect the bodies and where did you deliver them to?
Tako reći u centru Prištine, ispod izdavačke kuće, odnosno novinski Lirindija, tako zvano, na parkingu. Bio je kamion hladnjača maksimalne veličine dimenzija.
And where did you take these bodies to?
U Batajnicu.
In all of the 13 municipalities specified in the indictment as sites of deportation and forcible transfer, the Chamber finds that forces of the FRY in Serbia deliberately expelled Kosovo Albanians from their homes, either by ordering them to leave or by creating an atmosphere of terror in order to effect their departure. As these people left their homes and moved either within Kosovo or towards and across its borders, many of them continued to be threatened, robbed, mistreated, and otherwise abused. In numerous places, men were separated from women and children, their vehicles were stolen or destroyed, their houses were deliberately set on fire, money was extorted from them, and they were forced to relinquish their personal identity documents.
The Chamber is satisfied that the charges of murder as alleged in the indictment have been proved with respect to the many locations in Kosovo specified in the judgment. In particular, the Chamber has found that not less than 724 Kosovo Albanians were murdered by Serbian forces, in most cases police. In the large majority of cases, the victims, including women and children, were civilians who were unarmed and not in any way participating in any form of armed conflict.
The trial chamber therefore finds that there was a broad campaign of violence directed against the Kosovo Albanian civilian population during the course of the NATO airstrikes, conducted by forces under the control of the FRY and Serbian authorities, during which there were incidents of killing, sexual assault, and the intentional destruction of mosques. It was the deliberate actions of these forces during this campaign that caused the departure of at least 700,000 Kosovo Albanians from Kosovo in the short period of time between the end of March and beginning of June 1999.
The Chamber was also satisfied that the accused was instrumental in MUP efforts to conceal the murders of Kosovo Albanians during the indictment period. The Chamber has found that the transportation of bodies from Kosovo for clandestine burial in mass graves on MUP grounds was undertaken as part of a coordinated operation to remove evidence of crimes committed by Serbian forces against Kosovo Albanians in Kosovo during the indictment period. In the Chamber's finding, this operation was conducted under the direction of the accused in consultation with Minister Stojkovic, pursuant to an order of the President of the FRY, Slobodan Milosevic.
Video M1.